What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Getting the Cashflow Game with K and K. Today, I got Andre Evans in the house. I'm going to read off a sheet because I can't memorize all this stuff. Okay. This guy, I was reading about him. I knew some stuff about him. Well, number one, let's just get something else. He wakes up earlier than me, okay? 2 a.m., okay? So this guy's goal set, we're going to talk about goal setting, tough life situations. He used to be a gang member. He's at the Naval, graduated from the Naval Academy, did some stuff at MIT we'll get into. Has a podcast called Multifamily by the Slice. We'll get into that too. He wrote a book, That Is My Property. Meetup is called Opportunity Knocks. And then the guy is just doing all this stuff. And I'm sitting here going, how do you do all this stuff? So anyways.
You've lived a super interesting life. I feel like you've lived 10 lives.
And he's not even like 60 or 70. Oh, and by the way, how tall are you?
6'5".
And how much do you weigh?
230.
And it's all muscle.
Well, you're taller than me, bro.
Huh?
You're taller than me.
Yeah, but I'm not 230 all muscle.
That's what I
Dre, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Happy to be here.
Wow, that was a lot. So I was, I don't even know how we met. Somebody's asking me that. I was like, how did we meet?
I don't know. You met, I think someone introduced you guys, right? Do you remember how you guys
I think maybe someone did. I knew Nick. And maybe Nick mentioned you.
Okay.
And then we connected. And I remember we met up in, what was it, Mission Valley?
Yep.
Something like that. And just kind of kept in touch. We had followed each other on social, and here we are.
Yeah. So before we kind of jump into all the exciting stuff of multifamily and all you got going on, you have an interesting background. So can you kind of back up and tell us how you landed here and a little bit about your story?
Yeah, I'm just a kid from Chicago. When I was 12 years old, I joined a gang on the South Side, and that was really just for safety and protection and identity. Every male coming of age is going to look for some type of male role model. And for me, my biological father was a drug addict, and then my uncles, my mom's brothers, they were all drug addicts. So I really didn't have that male role model to look to. I felt closer to my biological father because there were a lot of like gifts I got from him, and we looked more similar in complexion and whatnot. So did that gang stint for a couple years, and then a man that I considered my enemy at the time presented me with the opportunity of a lifetime. He told me about the school called West Point, and I was like, I'm not taking orders from nobody. And I remember when I got off the bus and they're yelling at me, I'm like, who the fuck are you talking to? You know? Yeah. So shortly after that, I went to the West Point leadership seminar. It was a week. So they paid for me and my brothers to go. I'm a triplet. So they paid for us to go for a week, came back. And I remember just being in that environment, I felt so safe. Like people really they cared about my leadership development and my growth as a person. And coming back, there was a drive-by shooting on me and my best friend. And that was like the wake-up call. I had been in situations like that before, but it was something about coming from that environment and then being back in the shy. And when that happened, I was like, I got to do something because I already know what life looks like and just knowing friends and family who have been affected or killed or been in situations. So I might as well take that risk of death and knock on the door and try to escape. And so I did. And that's where that whole inspiration piece came from, because when I confronted the gang, they were like, listen, they were in the process of beating me out. And then they stopped it. The gang leader, we call him Smoke. And he stopped and he was like, listen, Dre, you have always like inspired us. We always saw you were different. Even though we knew that you had our backs, there was something different about you. So pretty much the promise was like, yo, as long as you leave this hood, leave Chicago and put on for the city, you go with us. So I left and didn't look back. And I've gone many times and done outreach, and that's where the outreach came from, and giving back to kids. And, you know, my mother being my why and the South Side being my why. And I didn't go to West Point. I chose the Naval Academy, went there, and it was the ticket of a lifetime.
Ooh.
Wild story. Yeah, that's so crazy. It's just wild. I can't imagine that like contrast from going from like the gangs in the hood to West Point. I'm like, how you're like, whoa, life could be really, really different for me. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that's what changed you?
It was, and it was just, I'd never been in a nurturing environment like that. So for me, when I got a taste of that, I wanted it so badly. I held on to it because, again, on the South Side, it's not that it's all bad. I'm thankful for that experience because it made me value, and even today, it's my foundation. But when you are in an environment where you feel like people want to see you do well, it just makes you feel different.
Yeah. It's like a different type of family.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see that. Wow.
Well, it's crazy. And then I was reading your triplet.
I'm a triplet, yeah.
Holy smokes.
So all three of your brothers went to West Point, or you and your two brothers?
So Alex and I went to the Naval Academy. Alex is in Monterey right now in graduate school. He's super smart. He's like a cyber guy, like computer science whiz. I mean, we were growing up, he'd just be hacking stuff, and I'm like, you're weird. So
now you're like, you're a genius, right?
Yeah, now he's a genius.
Yeah.
And he's getting his master's in computer science, and he's like, oh, bro, it's easy. I'm like, in the head, I'm like, okay, bro, all right.
Yeah.
So, but he's great. Alex I call him the sweetest of us three. He has a heart of gold. Even as a kid, when you're normally selfish, he'd give you his last gummy bear out of his bag. And like, that's the type of guy Alex is. Like, love him to death. And then Anthony works for the Secret Service in Arizona.
Wow.
So you guys like changed your generation, like changed your entire family, because you have generations of people who've had drug addiction problems and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And now you and your brothers have like completely changed your generation and your family.
And that was the pact. I mean, we all went different routes. My brothers nowhere near went down the same path I did, but they were always like more video game people. So they would stay in the house when I was out, doing my thing. But I think my mom kind of started that. She was always a Christian woman and solid, and it was her guidance plus my grandmother that really set that foundation of just like trying to be on the right path. And everybody in my family looked at my mother and my grandparents as like the pillar of positivity within the family.
That's awesome. What a great story.
Did you ever go back?
Chicago many times. Yeah, even when I was at the Naval Academy, I was always going back doing outreach, mentorship, and speaking at the schools multiple times, just trying to give back. And
is it still kind of crazy there, like gangs and still a lot of problems? Or
it still is.
Chicago's well known.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying like just.
But it's home though, so for me, it's a different take. Like it don't really matter. I mean, that's home. My parents still live there, so my family's still there. So I'm not gonna not go back and see them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you ever talk to people that you're in gang with? Like,
no. Once I left, it was.
That's how it goes, huh?
Cut ties. And I did mention not in this, but in the memoir that'll be released, I did see one of my buddies, one of my best friends that I was with in that drive-by shooting with. I went back to Chicago one time and spoke at one of the high schools, and he was a teacher there.
Oh.
So that was surreal.
Well, that's cool though to hear that a person that was in that situation with you two in that life also got out of that, and he's teaching and
he was trying to do the same thing, trying to give back, but in a different light.
Yeah.
Hey, your mom must be proud.
Yeah.
Oh, it's blocking the book. Sorry, removing his pink mug.
His poodle mug.
Yeah, poodle mug. It's not his. He borrowed it from Monty. We could really say it was his. Coming out of the hood and with pink
mugs.
Pink mugs.
Yeah.
Rocking it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just marinating on that. It's kind of like just crazy. Like, I remember when I met you, you said that. I was like, oh, wow, that was a shocker.
Yeah. So how did you make the transition into real estate from the Naval Academy to now real estate?
Okay. Ooh. My buddy Keegan Wetzel, Naval Academy graduate, supply corps officer. We were at a Starbucks, and I vented to him, and I'm like, bro, until this book comes out, the memoir, that's the only thing I think I can have to change that financial narrative for my family and make moves for them. And so for me, I got my gift to write from my mother. I believe that everyone has set talents and gifts that they are birthed with or they can develop, and writing was one of those things that, just like art, it came natural for me. And so the same company that's produced David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, Who Not How, Tiffany Haddish's book, The Black Unicorn, I'm working with them now on the memoir. We'll probably release December or January timeframe. And so I was just going in and venting to him about it. And I'm like, but even though I've got this backing behind me with it, it's still not guaranteed that it's a success. And so he was like, you should look at multifamily. And I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
And so he's trying to explain it to me, right? And I'm like, I'm still not getting it. And I think that was like God or the universe's way to like laugh at me, because then he said, okay, let's just go. My triplex is down the street in Bay Park. Let's just get in your car. We'll drive up and I'll show it to you. So we pull up. And this is where I feel like in terms of God and the universe aligning. When it was COVID, broke out. I was on my last deployment on the ship. Everything's going off at home. People stealing toilet paper. I'm like, what is going on? We pulled out from sea. We're literally looking at the city of San Diego for like 3 weeks, just circling around because they won't let us pull in because the Navy's afraid that it'll break out on the ships. And, you still want to keep that national defense capability. So when we finally pull in, all the gyms are closed, which I'm like, oh, nah.
Oh, yeah.
I got to get it.
Yeah, how did you know that? Holy.
So there was one guy, Grinders Gym, shout out to Grinders Gym with Dave, and he owned his gym, so he was still keeping his open and operating that, and it was a pretty like outdoor space. So it's in Bay Park. So I pull up, and I remember seeing this house there, and I was like, oh man, that's a really dope house. Not knowing it's an apartment complex because it was like, small. So when we pull up, I'm like, this is the same house block I parked on.
Yeah.
Come to find out, all the multifamilies on that block were owned by Naval Academy grads and West Point grads.
Oh.
And I was like, if this is not the stars aligning, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So then, shout out to Keegan and his love and that brotherhood of, he took me upstairs for like another hour. He pulled up like the MLS, Crexy, LoopNet, and was just showing me multifamilies in San Diego. And my mind was just like blown. I'm like, I don't have $1 million or a couple $1 million to do this. So like, how did you do this? And he's like trying to explain it to me. He showed me an example deal for a 4-unit in Mission Hills. And I left, and my mind was just like shocked. And so for the next 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, I was just podcast university, YouTube university, reading everything I could, engaging in multifamily. And Keegan thought he scared me away.
You're like, no, I was just quietly over here learning.
I was just like, but I was getting it.
Absorbing.
And then the next thing I know, like I was started looking at deals, and I put an offer on a 5-unit in Mission Hills, and then the 4-unit in PB that I own now, and went into escrow, closed, and I was like, yo, Key, like I closed. And Key's like, what? And that's where it started. And I swear, after I closed on that 4-unit in PB, was able to stabilize it, got it to cash flow, about $2,000 a month. The real estate journey has just taken off.
Good for you.
Yeah, so I like to back up, because just on that scenario, because we are in San Diego, there's, by the way, thanks to your service, there's a ton of military people here. And it's funny, when I start talking to them, they'll be in a home, they start with a home, and all of a sudden they go, wait a minute, I can buy a 4-unit using my VA? Yeah. And I can put 0% down? Yeah. And then if you're really good, you might be able to negotiate somebody to pay your closing costs. And you're like, yeah. And you're like, what am I missing? I'm like, you're not missing anything. What's the catch? There is no catch. No, this can't be this easy. I'm like, it literally is that easy. So you're like, on top of what you bought, which you didn't mention, is you used a VA loan. So you put 0% down.
It's not that simple. So
you could.
So you're right. The VA loan is 0 down, and I think it's very applicable in the single family space. But in the multifamily space, as you know, if I'm going to count the rental in a market like San Diego, I feel like it's even more different because it's more expensive. And given the $1 million, $2 million purchase price, in order to qualify for that loan amount with the DITI and everything and the income, you have to count the income from the units. And I believe it's 75% of it.
Yeah,
you can count.
gross. Yeah.
So if you're going to count that, then they're expecting you to have that 3 to 6 months worth of reserves for whatever the debt service is. And that's what gets people, because people will ask me that, and I'm trying to educate veterans, and I'm trying to have those conversations. But what weeds them all out is that part, because then when you track on the earnest money deposit, which here, 1 to 2% of the purchase price, that's 2 EGs. That's, right out the gate. So you got to have that. And then it's between all your accounts, you're looking at, let's just say total out the gate, you're going to need at least $100,000 somewhere to get in.
Especially on a $2 million deal.
Especially on a $2 million deal. And so I think that alone weeds a lot of people out. So when I have those conversations with the veterans, I'm trying to be as transparent as possible. I'm like, look, bro, or look, sis, like, this is truly what it takes. And I speak about it in the book, that you need to have those reserves between stocks or your TSP, your Roth IRA, or liquid cash, whatever, to show you have that. Compared to single family home, you could do that 0 down.
Yeah. The other interesting thing about why we're talking about it is on the 4-unit, which I've called underwriters and they don't know. You do have to have the reserve. But the crazy thing is I don't know why, and nobody can answer, if you buy a single family, you probably can get approved up to like a 65 DTI.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go 4 unit, I've gotten 80 DTIs approved on 4 units. And I called owners like, Kenny, I don't know the algorithm. I can't. I
So
don't
if you
know.
can figure out the reserve piece
Yep.
and the earnest money deposit,
And
like,
then
you
and then the
get,
other thing is
so
is
many
that
more benefits.
a lot of LOs and lenders don't know, but I'll just give you another hack is that you also have to have property management experience. But if you don't have it, like they go, well, they're like, some lenders like, sorry, we can't do the loan. It's not true. There is a guideline that if you get a property management company to manage the other 3 units, that's how you get it through.
I had to list it because I was in escrow for 4 months. It was a roller coaster. Every single week I thought I was gonna make it just because they were coming up with more fees of like, hey, you need to have this amount of reserves more. We need like 30 grand more, or they need the property manager, or the other agent on the other end was getting annoyed because we were going back and forth. We were supposed to close, and then they started hitting me with a fine. They're like, okay, we've already been at 45 days, so we're gonna hit you with a $5,000 like just to continue past that, and $500 every day after that. In my mind, and I talk about it here in the first half of the book, I'm like, a lot of people I felt would have walked away from that. But in my mind, I'm like, well, no, because if I do this one deal, like Michael Blanc says, the law of the first deal, I need to do this deal. I ran the numbers. I know it's PB. I already looked at the rent rolls. I'm making $2,900 a month on 2-bed, 2-bath with a patio. And I've got a huge value add. I've got storage sheds. I've got parking spots. Like, this is it. And I was like, I'll do it. It's worth this short-term loss for the long-term gain. I'll take this hit because I know what I'm going to get on the back end from this is going to be like a snowball effect.
And look at what happened too. Like from 2020 to today, like your $2,900 rents are probably like 30s.
Well, you're doing vacation rental too on some, right?
So
that's the other hack. We haven't even got to the next hack. It's like there's like we're going. Okay, so let's just break this down, guys. 4 unit, you can have 0% down. You do need the reserves. So, and if you don't have property manager experience, you get a property manager, right? So if you can get all these hurdles, and then remember, DTI can be really high. Then you do have to meet the residual income. Yep. If you can do that, then in San Diego, now you can tell them the next hack, which was, this is like the moneymaker right here. You're in Pacific Beach. And by the way, if you don't know that, that's probably one of the most popular, desirable destinations. If you come here to rent, or if you're coming here to do a VRBO, it's one of the most popular.
If you're vacationing.
Yeah, spots. People kind of just go to flock to PB.
Not to mention, it's like a huge like college town. There's there's a lot of different like draws.
Stands for Pacific Beach.
Yeah. I did. Sorry.
Got to drink out of the pink poodle.
The poodle's calling.
Yeah, I got to get my pink poodle juice. Yeah, that's the hacks, and that's the beauty of multifamily. That's another reason why I love it over the single family space, because now you have the ability to do long-term leases. I call it midterm rentals, which is those traveling nurses and doctors and lawyers or corporations. You could do the short-term rental piece, and then you could even do student housing. So actually, that's where I even saw the hybrid model firsthand. So when I bought the property from the previous owner, he was doing a hybrid model where he was doing student housing. He had relationships with the international schools that you see like in La Jolla and downtown. He was doing by the bed. I mean, literally, you walked in each room and he had like 4 beds in there. He was charging, the schools are paying him by the bed, just like straight credit card. He was cleaning house.
Wow. So smart.
But when COVID happened, a lot of that stopped because then students weren't traveling anymore. And so what was left was more so than just the students that remained that couldn't go back, and just long-term lease tenants. And so
that's a good hack too, the student model. Wow, that's a good idea.
So it's like, there's so much you can do with it. And so for me, hybrid, half the complex is long-term leases, the other half is short-term rentals.
Wow.
Good for you. And as we all know, I mean, vacation rentals have been on fire.
Right now you're on fire, huh?
Yeah, fire. It's
big months.
Big months.
Big months right now.
Like $3-4 grand.
You're making some nice cash.
Yeah, every month.
Wow. Good for you. So, I mean, that is, so that's why I call the VA 4-unit hack. You could do it on a 3-unit, and so I think a lot of people, that are, and look, here in San Diego too, you could have it where there's a house in the front and units in the back. It's not, you don't just have to buy. People think, oh, I don't want to buy it for you. I'm like, no. There's house in the front and 3 in the back or 2 in the back. You can just live in the house and And the goal is that you pay minimal
To know
to
rent.
no mortgage. Yeah, you're basically there free.
Yeah,
So-
that's how the 5 unit was that I put the offer on. It was a how it was actually the historical property at the Mission Hills. So I was like, oh, I would have got the break on that with the property
Mills Act.
tax, the Mills Act. Yep. And then it had 3 units in the back. No, correction, it had 4 units in the back because they had the 3 that was a complex itself stacked, and then they converted the garage.
Bootleg says the bootleg.
Yep. So I was like, man.
It's funny because we did one where Stephanie's property where it was a bootleg and it was 5 and you can kind of sneak it through the goalie because the VA's kind of like they don't care. They're like, whatever. I called them. They're like,
They're a little more relaxed.
they're just kind of like, it's the lender. We're not going to balk at it if it comes here. If they ask us, we're going to be like, it's up to you guys. So you kind of just, if you can make it work, you make it work. And you might have to rip a stove out or something and then put it back. But then you could have closed on it and just go get a legal ADU done. That's what somebody would have done. Then you're like, sweet.
Yep.
Turn around and get a commercial loan.
Mm-hmm.
Mission Hill is a good spot.
So you started with this 4 unit. Are you syndicating now and raising money and allowing other people to start getting in on like some of these deals that you're doing?
I'm doing the mix. So I'm still doing anything with, I'll say all multifamily. So anything I could fund on my own capital, joint ventures, and syndication. So I'm doing that hybrid again of the mix. So we syndicated the 12 unit, and then I was co-GP on the syndication of a 75 unit in Texas.
Good for you. That's awesome. And are you kind of doing outreach to more of the people that you've served with, or are you kind of getting investors from all over?
I'll say all over. And I actually try to stay away from more so the military side of the house because I have a couple of buddies that's already their market and that's what they do. And I feel like that's not my story.
Yeah.
You know, I do have the military background, but when I view myself, I think it's more than that. Like I really say my real estate background and my real estate business is my business, and that me being a naval officer is my second job. I call that my side hustle, if I'm being honest, just because this is more impact to people, you know?
So let's talk about that. How you get all this done in a day. I'm assuming it has something to do with getting up at 2:00 in the morning every day.
Well, so Chris, it's not 2, it is 3.
Okay. That's good. I was like, how does this happen?
Yeah.
When do you sleep? Can you let's just run through your day, like your morning when you wake up.
Okay, it starts at 3.
Yeah.
Boom, go.
Okay, it starts at 3. I've got my planner, so I've already mapped my week out because on Sunday, the chill day, I'm already mapping out my planner of what I got to get done for the week. So at that point, I'm just getting up, I'm reviewing my goals. I'm doing taking a playbook out of Grant Cardone and other people, writing out your goals. I saw that at the Naval Academy, and even coming out of Chicago, if I write down my affirmations and my goals, I can accomplish them. So I'll write down what I want to accomplish, and then I'll work. It depends on what I have to get done. If I'm writing at the time, a book, I'm writing for a couple hours until probably 6 or 7 when I got to go in to work. If I'm underwriting a deal, I'm doing that. If I'm working on a website or if I'm trying to boost the podcast in some way, working on the website, I'm doing that. It depends on what I have to accomplish. But essentially, I'm working for the first 2-3 hours, 4 hours of the day, going to work on base. I take my lunch to do business for that hour, and then I'll probably leave base at around 4 o'clock, just about 4 or 5 o'clock. And then from there, hit the gym, got to get it in.
Get it in.
And then after that, the rest of the night, some days you'll go to a real estate meetup. Some days I'm chilling with friends. Some days I'm doing a little bit more work, but I'll probably do another hour or 2 of work. And then same thing the weekends. I count my weekends as work time, just a part of being an entrepreneur. And then Sundays is the most chill day.
And Sunday is the day that you map out your week.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you save that time on a daily basis, just thinking about what you're going to be doing.
Because I'm getting up and I already know what I have to execute on. So just like I always carry that planner with me. So just like when I was here with you all, I'm like, all right, I got to email Krystle. I got to email Kenny, and I just write it down. And I know that these are the things I got to do. I did that method at the Naval Academy because your day is so compressed. You have so much to do in so little time. And I think it forces us to be that way because for us, we have something called uniform races and even child calls and all those different things. So how that would go is they make you line up on a bulkhead, which is basically like a wall. So imagine lining up on a wall and then be like, all right, changing into a uniform or even making your bed. They're like, every morning you got to come out, take your pillowcase, put all your sheets in it. We will line up on the bulkhead and we're standing out like this. And they're like, all right, everybody's out here. You got 5 minutes. Go. Everybody has to be back outside with your bed made military style, corners and everything at attention. If one person doesn't make it out, we all fail. And it teaches you that if let's say I come out and Dre slow, best believe I've got 10 people running into my room and my barracks room to help me make my bed so we can all make it back out on time. And that time hack stuff forces you to be productive. And if you think about it, about your day, you could do time hack your day. And you're always like, okay, I got to get this done in 10 minutes. I got 30 minutes to do that. I got this amount of time to do that. And that's what allows you to be productive.
That's so smart. Like you were basically conditioned to
Pretty
operate
much
like this.
Yeah. And not even knowing it.
Yeah.
Because you finish and you're like, these dudes don't brainwash me. You know, they don't like trick.
Honestly,
they
it's a skill we should all
tricked me.
Yeah, but it's a skill we should all learn. Like that's like something people should learn in school. Honestly, it's just a valuable life skill.
So let's get this straight. You bought your first property in 2020?
December. I closed Christmas Eve.
And so today it's August 5th, not even 2 years. You started a podcast. You wrote a book.
Yeah.
You have a meetup. And you've done, your website's awesome, by the way.
You have like 98 units, right? Is that
98 total?
Yeah. And you still have a job. And you still eat pizza every Friday.
That's right.
And
that.
That's why it's multifamily by the slice. We're going to get there.
Yes.
So I have to ask you then, because I think the reason why I get up early is the same thing. Is if you want to accomplish more. And I tell people, a friend said he gets up at 5 and he said, hey, he was doing something like he DM'd me. He said, hey, I realize if I get up at 5, I get an extra month or something in the year. He goes, but you're getting up at this time, you get 2 months more in a year.
You ever heard that speech that Kobe did? It's similar to that. He talked about how he gets up at 4 and he outworks everyone, right? But if you think about it, he basically explains in the interview that after a year, it doesn't matter if any of the other players in the league get up early. He's already got a year or 2 years over them because of the fact that he got up at 4 o'clock every single day.
That's why.
It's nuts.
Yeah, it was funny. I was listening to somebody.
And they always said about Kobe too, like he was always practicing in the off season, and like he was always there, like at the same time. And then some coach wanted to come and meet him one day, so he thought he'd be like 15 minutes early and get there before him warm up, and Kobe was already there.
He's like, dude. He's like, what's up? He's already sweating and playing. He's like,
and like he said, I'm not the best player. I just outworked everyone.
I didn't know a story till I heard. I'm like, Kobe was like, first time he played, he's like, I didn't score one basket all summer, and then he's like, I came back and he's like, well, how do I get good? He's like, well, who's the best guy? That guy. How much does he train? He trains 2 hours a day. Okay, I'll just do 4 hours. He came back, best player. He's like, whatever you're doing, I'll just do more. Mm-hmm. That's what we can do.
Yep.
If you're not the smartest, if you're not like your brother hacking
if you're not on Alex's level, you gotta. I'm that guy. I take a long time to learn stuff, so I know I got to put in extra time.
That's pretty much me too. That's why I say I'm like, you don't have to be smart to make money or do things. It's called get up earlier or hack. Mm-hmm. How do you hack it? Yeah. So basically so when you do all this, what do you think your strength is then? Like, what is your strength in to get all this shit done? Is it discipline? Is it goal setting? Like, because I don't know if it's just goal setting because you still have to do it, right? Like
my mom, my family. It's
the why.
It's the why. I can care less. I don't want to be Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone. What I find is like everyone wants to be him. No, I want to be Dre Evans. Like I can give 2 shits about owning 1,000 units. I don't care. At the end of the day, I'm trying to continue to break the financial narrative for my family. There are a lot of people that come from my situation that have not had those opportunities and are trying to figure out a way. And so I believe, as J. Cole has said, like you only have so much to rock the mic. Like you only have that amount of time to have that impact. And while you have it, you have to use it. And so for me, I know that if I do things right, I impact my brother's lives, I impact my mother's life, I impact whenever I do have a family, their lives, and then the people that I can inspire. And that's the shit that matters to me, not how many units I have. This is just the foundation. The true passion I have is for writing books. The true passion I have is for the outreach. That's what I love to do. So I need to get my stuff together here with the business to the foundation. So it gives me the greatest return you could ever have is ROT, is the return on time, to then go back and give back. Like, that's what matters. And spend time with your family and friends and your loved ones and free up their time. Because again, if I make moves, then they don't have to work. So, and that is what drives me. And then, because even my brothers, they're like, when is it enough? And I'm like, you're missing the whole point. I'm doing all this shit for you all. You just don't get it. And when I explained it, because one time me and my brother were on the phone, the Secret Service one, and I'm all about being transparent with people, so I don't care. I share a conversation I had personally with my brother. And he's like, Dre, like, I feel like you're putting yourself under so much for no reason. I'm like, no, bro, you don't get this. I'm doing this for you all. I'm doing this for freedom. Like, look how much you travel with the Secret Service. Okay, great. It's great that you see the presidents and the congressmen and all that. That's a blessing. Yes, I salute you for that. But you're miserable. You literally in a day, they're like, go to London. And then you come back and then a day go to DC.
Gnarly job.
You hate that. So why do I hate that. I've been in the military. Like, I miss my brother's Secret Service graduation, and I'll never be able to repeat that. Now, I imagine this as an officer, the sales I was leading, I used to look at them and look at their faces, and how do you, that's tough to lead that when I don't even have kids. I don't even have a family, and they're missing their daughter's graduation or their birthday or their wife's anniversary or whatever it may be, or her birthday. And it's like, at what cost? The military is great. Like, again, the service is great, but being real, the military will take and take and take from you. And if you don't figure out a way to get something back in return, you'll look in that 20 years and you won't have nothing to show for it. But they would have taken all your time and taken you away from your family. And for me, I was like, that shit's not going to be me. I've already felt this before, and I know how I felt when my grandmother passed away, my other wife, and I couldn't attend the funeral. That shit's never happened to me again. And so that was why I had that fire in my stomach, because I'm going to do what I got to do to be financially free so I can cut ties from the military and be like, I don't need this. I'm never going to miss eventful moments in life, because I know from Chicago, life is too short.
Woo.
Wow. Yeah, the military gives you an opportunity, but you have to take it and run with it.
Yeah.
Instead of getting complacent.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you were sitting there, I was thinking a couple things. We had the privilege to, I'm sure you'll know the guy. If not, then Ed Mylett.
Yeah.
Power of One More.
Yeah.
So 2-3 weeks ago, we were in Vegas, and this event that this guy I know through, and he came on stage. I know a lot of people that know him personally, never saw him speak. Everybody's like, best speaker. And obviously he has tons of money. And then the Power of One More really came from his dad that died. And so his dad, kind of the short story is he grew up with his dad, and his dad was an alcoholic for a lot of his life. And then his dad finally, basically, his mom was like, either get your shit together or get out. And his dad basically said, I'm going to try one more time here. And he got sober, and then he was sober for 35 years. And so Ed Mylett gets on stage, and a lot of the, you kind of know this because you heard this. And then he said, my dad passed. And then he's like, I'm going around in his room and stuff, and there's all these note cards, names and dates. It's like, what the hell is this? And he goes, his mom, she goes, well, you guys didn't know this about your dad. He goes, what is this? He goes, there's thousands and thousands of names. He goes, those are all the people that he helped.
So he had these note cards, and he would like remember to call, congratulations on being sober one more year, happy birthday, like all these people. And then so basically after his dad died, he had Ed would run into people here and there that would say like, your dad changed my life. He called me every year, like on the anniversary of being sober, of my sobriety, and cheered me on and was always there for me. He never missed he never missed. He was just always, so he had all these note cards that he would keep track.
And so Ed, that was his best friend. He never knew it. And so out of his dad's death, the reason why I bring this up is because this is your why. You know, your why. Out of his dad's death, obviously Ed Mylett has plenty of money. Everything is, this book came, The Power of One More. And that's why Ed said is, I wrote this book. I don't know if I'll write another book for 5 or 10 years because there's this event in my life. And he said, and so this speech that he gave was about Power of One More. But what he's talking about is that there's always one person in the family. There's one person that changed the trajectory, or if I can say the word right, trajectory of the family.
Of your family.
And he said, and so he was like, that's me. And he goes, it's not just monetary. It's not me. He goes, it's for my daughters. It's for my cousins. It's for my brothers. It's for my mom. It's for the friends. And he says, and he recently had his kids on. That's what they're saying is like, everybody looks up to my dad and that's the guy. Like, you're the guy. And so
you're the guy in your family.
So I'm sitting here thinking about this, and I'm like, we're watching a speech, and Ed was really emotional that day. And he's like, man, I hate giving the speech. It's painful, but I mean, he would just stop in the room. I mean, people were bawling and crying. And so I just, there was that moment there. I was like, that's what we're saying is there's the one person in the family. Like, you're the one person.
You know what's crazy that you said that? I had a call this morning at 6 a.m. with a guy because I'm going to hire on some executive assistants. He said that exact same story this morning. And so I'm a person of like the universe and like God putting things together. And I think there's a reason, because he literally said the same exact story, same book, everything. And then you're saying it now, and it's the same day.
I mean, this book, he wrote this book to change people's lives. Yeah. Ed's like, I'm here speaking. Do I get paid? Yes. I don't need the money. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need any of this anymore. He can just go sit on the beach and be like, I'm done. Right. But with his dad, he's like, no, my dad didn't tell me for 35 years he was changing lives with making zero money. His dad didn't care about the money. I'm going to now change lives.
I love that.
Powerful.
I love that.
So if you haven't seen the speech, I'll send you not the one I had, another one. I'll hit it to you because it's when you're chilling Sunday. It's powerful.
Okay.
The second thing I was thinking about is we're coming up with a course. So we're writing a course. She's been working on it forever. Nice. And I was reading it this morning. I was sitting there and I literally broke out Ed Mylett's speech for some inspiration. I was like, well, Krystle, like, you're doing this course, but I'm like, you just start like right off the course. I'm like, no, like, that's not why we did this. Like, what are we doing here? Like, like the person that's reading it, like, you need a like, so I literally watched Ed Mylett's speech and I was like, he doesn't start a speech like, let me tell you what we're going to go through in this speech. He told why he's here is the story of his dad, and and other stuff. So I'm literally, as you're talking, like typing out this morning, and I'm not blessed with writing, by the way. Like, if I had to get paid to write, I'd be living in a van down next to your house. Okay. I was typing why you that are reading this, why you're here, because you're tired of waking up every day and having to work to pay your mortgage and pay your bills and pay your vacation and pay this and pay that, just like we were, and that's why my thing is like, I want to wake up one day where I'm like, if I go to work, it's because I want to, not that I have to, because I put time and effort into building something. It doesn't have to be multifamily. It could be like building this or that, right? And that's what you're here. It's like, it's the military, it's this and that. And you see people every day, and we've been doing loans for a long time, and I see it. I'm like, man, if people just change a thought or snapped out of it or woke up a little early and just, like you, is in 2 years, look what you did. And that's what I tell people. In 6 months or a year or 2 years, like what you can accomplish with just getting up an hour or two earlier and putting some time and effort in something that you might have passion about. Like, it doesn't have to be real estate. Like, that's what I see in you. It's inspiring.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you sharing.
Thank you.
It's pretty vulnerable, but anyways, it just kind of like that moment there, I was getting like goosebumps. I'm sitting here thinking like, it's weird how you're talking about that. And today I literally was like dealing with this. I'm like, no, like you got to, it's like people aren't going to come to the course. They're coming to read your book or this because they want more. They need something different. They need to get out of the rat race. They need to fire their boss. They need a retirement. Pension's not going to be enough. Your military retirement's not going to be enough. It's not, Social Security might not be around. We can depend on ourselves. We don't have to depend on the military or the government. You can do it yourself. Like, look what you've done by you just doing you, and not, like you said, you don't have to be Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
You don't. You can just be Penny Simpson. You can be Dre. You can be Krystle, Monty.
Well, like you said, like a lot of people have that, we all make excuses for things that are hard, right? And so here you are, like, working, like it's not like real estate's your only job, or doing outreach is your only job, and meetups and podcasts. Like, you're doing all of this on top of working for the Naval Academy, right?
For the Navy.
For the Navy.
The Naval Academy is just was the school.
Yeah.
That's
so
where
you work for the
commission
Navy,
from.
and you do all of this on top of it. So people go like, wow, how do you do that? There's only 24 hours in a day. And you do it by getting up at 3:00 in the morning and working on your lunch when most people want to go just have lunch.
Maybe they'll sit on their social media for an hour, check on Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to do that.
The way you break it down, though, is so simple. Like, oh, yeah, just like plan it on Sunday, wake up at 3 a.m., work until 6 or whatever, and then work on your lunch and maybe do a couple more hours after you get off, and then go hang out with friends. And
yeah, I'm all about balance.
Yeah.
I think people think you're like some robot. I'm like, I'm still young. Like, I'm not trying to.
What time do you go to sleep?
Like 11.
He doesn't sleep
So
much.
you sleep 4 hours, pretty much?
4 to 5.
Yeah,
But,
you don't require.
In my defense, so Alex and I, growing up in Chicago, we lived in like a bungalow, and Alex and I will always fight for whatever reason growing up. So my mom made us share the same like room. It's a little bit bigger, and Anthony was like right around the corner. His is smaller, but he had his own. But my stepdad, he always made us keep the windows open to save money because he was very frugal. And on the south side, I mean, you would hear the shootouts, you would hear mothers spraying mace in their daughter's face, fights, cops chasing people, helicopters going over. So all the symphony of late night activities and sounds, I will always hear them because my bed, like if this is the window, my bed's right here, it's touching it. And Alex is right across from me. And so Alex and I would just stay up and like we would hear stuff and we would talk about it. So we kind of grew up not really sleeping much and just being very alert and aware of our surroundings. And then you go to the Naval Academy and in the military in general, you're already forced to be on little
kind of
no
already
sleep.
primed for that.
And especially when you go out to sea on a ship, there's no work hours. It's like whatever got to be done, got to be done.
Shit happens.
We'll
Get
be
up.
in the helicopter control tower landing helos for like hours, like
Focus
all night. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. Like now, when the ship is in port, yeah, it's more a regular work hour where you might go on the ship at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. and leave at like 4 or 5. But when you're underway, the days bleed. How whatever it does, it is. There's no set.
Especially if you have
So
to
you
go.
just get conditioned, or you were kind of already conditioned just with.
It was easy for me to make the shift because we had already been used to that, and my parents never let us sleep in. My mom was always like, after 10, you wasted the day, so she never let us sleep in. So it was like it was I was used to that.
Yeah, that's wild.
Never slept in. Never.
Yeah.
My dad never.
Yeah,
he's military background too.
But
no, it's just like get up now.
Yeah,
here's your list.
yeah.
On the weekends, she knows.
What are you doing to be productive?
Yeah. Is that the most productive thing you can do? Oh, yeah.
Actually, we tease Kenny and his friends tease him about the list. Oh God, Kenny's got his
Weekends,
list.
yeah.
List.
Cross that shit off,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow, just crazy. Just kind of, it's just, I just think, people might be like, well, that's what I was thinking about. Oh, I have kids, I have this. I'm like, okay, well, he doesn't have kids, but I have kids. I still get up early. So I just choose. It's like funny when people are like, oh, how late you stay up? I'm like, it's just when I fall asleep. What do you mean? I'm like, dude, like when I get to bed, some days it's 8:30. Why? I'm like, I'm exhausted. If you're not hitting the pillow exhausted, then you're just not. You're not. Yeah. And so Krystle knows, hey, you want to watch a movie? Sure. Hey, what are you doing? I'm out. Yeah, that's it.
I'm like, well, so much for that.
Hey, you want to go to dinner? Sure. What time? 5. What about 8? 8? Dude, 8, I'm half dead. Like now. Like it's like, why 8? You get up early, right? Yeah. So I just think like the sacrifice, and it's cool that you've done all this. So I want to kind of transition and talk about the meetups in San Diego. I think that's awesome. Okay. When did you start those? What's that kind of about? I know we're doing one this month, which is cool, super cool. Excited to do that with you.
Yeah. Opportunity knocks. So Jennifer Santoso, she's a mortgage broker with Toro Capital. She started it, and it was just called Opportunity Knocks. They didn't have a logo, they didn't have anything, and she had about maybe 20, 25 people coming, and she did it every so often, maybe every quarter or so. And Jennifer and I met actually at her meetup in Del Mar. It was my first real estate meetup, and we kind of connected, kept in touch. And then one random day I was in Phoenix visiting my brother, and she called me. She said, "Hey, Dre, I know you've been talking about starting your own meetup, but you want to just take Opportunity Knocks? At least you'd have 20, 25 people to start with." And I'm like, shit, yeah, let's do it. And so took over the group, did a whole rebranding, had a logo created. We brought in, over 8 sponsors, and they were paying for like our venue, drinks, media production, marketing.
Wow.
And we truly transformed it. And now we have the Meetup app is what we use. We have about 572 members total in it.
Good job.
And we have about 80 to 100 people at each event. And we were going every month, but that can be a lot sometimes, because for us, one of the things that made Opportunity Knocks unique about the other meetups is we bring in speakers. It's not more of like a beers and deals, because that you can kind of like fire and forget. And we shifted to every other month. And I think that worked well for too, because now people look forward to it. It helps with the turnout. And now we can thoroughly vet and pick people and guests that really add value. And I'm very picky about that. Like, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it all the way. I don't want to just throw somebody in there and then
just as filler.
Yeah, and then people come out and be like, "That shit was trash, Dre. Like, you wasted our time." I don't want that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want to feel that if I come out. So I try to put myself in people's shoes too. And that's where we're at with the meetup. So it's been a blessing. We've got a team. Shout out to the Opportunity Knocks team: Corey, Jasmine, Cameron Stewart, Jason, everybody. Like, they're all awesome.
Good for you, dude. Congrats.
So cool. And how long have you guys been doing Opportunity Knocks? A couple of years?
I've been doing it for about a year.
It's funny they started like in COVID.
Honestly,
too.
being
Like,
consistent with events, because it's hard, because it's work. Like you said, you got to try to find speakers. You got to get everybody together. You got to book venues. Like, congrats for keeping.
yeah, we were on a roll, and then I think I can't remember, end of 2019 or 2020, we had a good one, the rent control one. And we were like excited, and then COVID came, and I just kind of like that. I'll put it on hold. Now we're gonna start back. I'm excited, but
it's a lot of work. It's a lot of planning.
Yeah, but it's like we just kind of in COVID, just like that, we're over it, because it was just, I was like, people aren't gonna go there, but that's awesome. You started in COVID.
And if you can do it then, it's like, how big can it be once everybody's kind of like over it now?
Yeah.
And then podcast. So how did that, like, let's talk about the Multifamily by the Slice. How'd you come up with the name? And then how'd you start that? And then what do you guys talk about? I know it's multifamily, but what are you guys talking about? Who are you kind of interviewing on that show?
Ooh, well, as you know, it's no surprise I love pizza. I'm a true kid from Chicago. Pizza will always be my heart, my number one favorite food. And I think, again, it's funny how things align. I was doing the motivational speaking and never thought I'd have a podcast. And so one day something was like, I want to start a podcast. And I was like looking, and it just came to me like, Multifamily by the Slice. Have a picture with pizza and buildings coming out the pizza slice. And we had a lot of logo mock-ups, and eventually we landed on the one we were doing. And so I got my co-host, because I was recording the first 20 episodes, and I was just going to do a whole launch. I'm just going to drop maybe 5 and do like 2 a week. And I was interviewing Ike. And I met him at a real estate meetup here in San Diego, and we saw each other a couple of times. And so I was like, come on the show, bro. You own in Ohio, you own in Arizona, like, come through. And so we were on the show, and we finished, and I was like, something in my gut. And I've always been a gut person. It's been like that other sense for me that I used a lot to get out of sketchy situations in Chicago. And something in my gut was like, ask Ike if he wants to be the co-host. So I just straight up asked him, and Ike was like, I would love that. And I'm like, all right, bro, we'll do 2 episodes. We'll see how the vibe is. I'm a vibe person. See how we like it. And if it vibes and we rock with it, we'll rock with it. If we got good energy, we'll do it. And the vibe was dope. It was almost like I was never overcutting him. He wasn't overcutting me. It was like we were just so synergistic throughout the whole show. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. So then we went back to the artist and said, redo the whole mock-up. Put Ike's photo on it. We got pictures done. And it's been great. I love working with Ike. He has a unique perspective to things, and I think that makes it cool. Similar to you all, like, everyone has a unique way they think about things and their insights, and no one person knows it all.
Yeah.
So
it brings a different perspective.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We just today you have a conversation, you walk away with learning something. That's what I love about it.
Right.
Like, if it's one thing, that one thing, can just make a difference in your life.
Yeah, I always tell Ike, I feel like Ike's smarter, right? He, like, his family is from a real estate background. Like his
Oh.
dad had it. So he'll sometimes be like saying these big vocab words and like doing shit in the show. And I'm like, okay, bro, like, you got it.
It's also kind of cool though too, because you're like a San Diego based investor and then he's invested in other parts of the country. So it's cool to have like both perspectives on your show.
And we're in different mastermind groups too. And that's the other plus is we're not tapping into each other's network and the things that we're learning and the things that we're discussing and seeing. So like you mentioned, it's just great.
Cool.
Cool. You're in a mastermind or?
Yeah, I've been a few of them.
Nice. You like those?
I love them. I think I might join a new one that got presented to me, and I'm excited for that. But the 3 that I am in, I've been good.
Nice. Are they local or?
They're not local. A lot of it is like online and through Zoom calls and all that stuff and just physical phone calls, different applications.
So not meet up in person or?
No, not
Okay.
meet up in person. That would be amazing if I could find one that is more meet up in person.
What do you feel like you get from the masterminds? Because I feel like people come to us all the time. Kenny's in a couple masterminds and they're always like, is it good for you? Are you guys getting value out of it? Like, what do you think? Like, because I think a lot of people, there's so many people who are like, I mean, like they're kind of like in this world, right? They're like part of this crew that's in all these masterminds doing things. And then there's a lot of people who are kind of like on the sidelines thinking about it, think it sounds good, but they're just not sure. What do you feel like you've gotten out of masterminds?
I think it's just like getting started in real estate. You got to meet people halfway. I think people come to the mastermind with the expectation that, oh, I'm just going to come in here willy-nilly, thinking that they're supposed to provide everything or they're going to like hold your hand. And I'm like, that's not the case. It's just like when you go to a meetup for the first time. And I actually did the recent post we did on Instagram was about that. You need to learn the vocabulary and the concepts before you go to a meetup or any mastermind. Because think about it. How you going to go to a mastermind? They're talking about NOI and equity multiple and debt service and whatever. And they're throwing terms at you, which for us is a general conversation. If we're talking about multifamily, everybody knows NOI and cap rates is the bread and butter. And if we're having a conversation about it and it's all going over your head, how are you getting value from that? But it's different when you understand the vocabulary and you understand the concepts, and then you can come to that mastermind or you could come to that meetup and have those conversations. And now your questions are more pointed. Now you can get even further because stuff that you could have found out on your own, if you just sat down and educated yourself and not been lazy about it, then you can come and now you can ask advanced questions about more insight stuff that you couldn't have gotten on your own. And I think you're really shooting yourself in the foot because you only have one chance a lot of times in these mastermind groups and when you meet people to make that first impression, and especially someone that's more of a seasoned or more senior operator. It's always sometimes like, yeah, I believe that they could see something in you if you got that fire and you got that hustle. I think most people would respect that. But aside from them getting something from you, you know what I mean? But if you come in there and you just don't know nothing, like, what do you do with that? And it's the same thing on mastermind. Like you're not helping yourself.
Yeah, I feel like masterminds are like a place where everybody brings something to the table.
Yeah.
You know, like everybody brings a little bit of value. And so maybe I bring a value that you didn't know about and vice versa. And so I feel like the like synergy of masterminds is so powerful because we're in our little world in San Diego and you have your group of friends and your group of people that you're networking with. But there's all these other people in the world that you might not know that bring all this other value and like these unique perspectives. And so that's where I see the value, especially like what Kenny's gotten. He keeps in contact with so many people in different areas and we've been in real estate 19 years. You'd think that you must have seen most of it, right? But then you learn something new all the time. It's crazy. And it just allows you to, like you said, it gives you that ROT, right? Like it cuts down on that time that it would take you to learn something on your own.
Right.
Yeah, they're cool. I mean, honestly, I'm part of Venture Mastermind, which is kind of a roll off from 100 mil.
I've heard good things about the Venture one.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the guys, it's kind of weird at first because a lot of the guys you've seen on stage or this or that, they're kind of in a room. And so they have big personalities, big online. And then you kind of have to break through that because everybody's kind of like sizing everybody, who the hell is everybody in here? And then
you have to be really like forward and like engaging with other people. You can't be the shy person in the room.
Yeah. And then it's your ego. If you think you're a badass and you walk in a room, that will go out the window in about 5 seconds when you realize you're really not. You're a speck of sand on a beach, especially in here, because somebody could walk in the door that just, sold a company for $1 billion or something. You're like, yeah, okay. And so it's interesting. I always tell Krystle, like, it could be a breakfast. You're sitting there and some person comes in and I'm like, okay, well, you're not a part of the mastermind. Who? Oh, I sold this company for this, and I'm this person, I'm this. And I'm like, okay. And then you're in a breakout room and they're in there and you're like, what's the biggest problem in your business? And you tell, and everybody goes around and gives you advice. And it's like a lot, we call them all characters. That's what we do. And it's amazing because those are my favorite things where you get in breakouts, and it's not just monetary. It's not just business. Like somebody could be just struggling in life and you get to hear different perspectives. So,
Okay, I like that.
and then what I really like about it too is the longer I've been in it and the more I start to understand about people. So at first you meet somebody, then you follow them and you're like, okay, you do this. And then you start realizing like, wow, they're a badass, but they might not have this big brand like somebody else. So they're not out there. And then you start realizing, wow, they're good at this. And then you're like, I can call you about this. 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 And you realize I've got 20, 30 people that are really good at all these things that are like, probably I don't need to go, pay somebody. I can just go call them and get their advice or have them look at something or just ask them about this. That's where you realize like, oh, you want to launch a course? You want to do this? Okay, well, these 10 people already have them. They're making, this. Just ask them how they've done it. Just how they're doing this. And so it's very helpful to, if you want to get from A to B and save a lot of time and hack it and save the time, money, energy, you can just, get there quicker by just asking the right questions. But you
also get more one-on-one time or like small group settings to ask people, like you said, that know a lot about the thing that you want to know about. Like, when do you get that time with a lot of those people?
Yeah. You just have to, you got to just, if you're an introvert person, you're not comfortable, like even at the meetups, I always tell people like, just walk up and say hi. The reason why somebody is at a meetup, because they want to meet people. So when you're like, oh, I don't.
Well, the thing that we learned with PR was more like, you're feeling this way. Okay. They're feeling the same way too. So just somebody's got to break.
Like they're even saying like the media people, we went to see like, they're more nervous than you. So just say hi, just talk to them. So, it's because the first time I was telling Krystle, the first time I walked into the Avengers, I walked into, it was 100 people, and some people you're like, it's weird. I've seen him on stage or I've watched his podcast or this, and you're kind of like, this is kind of weird, but it's just like a normal dude. And you just go in there and it's just like overwhelming of like, oh my gosh, where do I start here? And you're just like, start small, just start talking. It takes time, So let's talk about, first of all, like now he writes a book. It's like Krystle would love to write a book, but
I started one. I'm
yeah.
about 70 pages in.
Yeah. And by the way, she's a great writer. So you guys are.
Yeah.
I like to hammer it out though. Like I like to go for like a weekend and just literally write for like 10 hours a day. Like I just keep going. I'll take breaks and go for a walk or whatever, and then just come back and power through. I can't do like every morning for 2 hours. I have like a hard time with that, but I feel like the most successful people that finish books have that same strategy. You just like carve out 2 hours a day.
And so
writing is your passion, right? You have
That's
a passion.
my passion. Yeah. And that again, that's stemmed from my mom. My mom's a writer.
When do you usually write, morning or night?
Oof. I could do both.
What's your best time?
I think in the morning. So when you're trying to get the bones of it, the morning, hands down. I hate the stage when I have to write it. Yeah. Because that sucks. The part I'm fine with that I can do wee hours of the night is when I'm on the second draft. Yeah. Because then I don't know, my brain like clicks in a different way. Like I'm just editing at this point. Clean. It's getting that everything down that first draft. That's the part that
the creative juices are in the morning. Yeah. You're fresh like that. Okay. Interesting.
So your first book is That's My Property.
Yeah. So speaking of, I'm a believer in give people a bunch of value and help them and expect nothing in return. And I think also Eric Thomas is a big proponent of that. And I love Eric Thomas. And I was just going to create a free resource that was free. So when I created the first edition of this, was about 140 pages. They could go on my website now and just download the first edition. It's free. And I put it in paperback because some people might want it physically. I love the physical books. I love the touch and feel of the page. So I'm like, all right, I'm just same thing, giving out for free. It's on Amazon if you want to buy it, but if people ever ask me, I'll hand it to them, and then they can go on my website and get the ebook. But when we reached the Amazon bestseller and we got so much feedback from it, I was like, I'm gonna go all out with this. And so then for the next month and a half, 2 months, I went all in. And so I was like, I'm gonna grow this to 230 pages. I'm gonna do it on hardcover. Where as of 2 days ago, we're in all the retailers. So like Walmart, Barnes and Noble,
Nice.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Hudson. So we're gonna go all out with it. We're gonna work on the audiobook. We're gonna build a course from it. We're gonna like do the full MOOC. But it started from that, you know what I mean? And so for some, I don't know.
Are you going to do your own audiobook? Are you going to read your own audiobook?
I'm going to do it for the memoir, because it's the memoir for this one. I probably won't.
Did you ever, I don't know if you're going to go there. Did you ever listen to David Goggins' audiobook?
I did.
So how you did the
Remember
podcast?
We were
Yeah.
talking about it. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I did tell you. Okay. I was like,
I love
because
podcasts.
I feel like when we were here today, like when you talk about your story, it like stops time and everybody's like engaged. I feel like somebody can't tell those parts. Like David Goggins, when he did that, it was like so impactful.
Yeah.
Like so impactful. I don't know. I just feel like you can do a little of that.
I would love that. Yeah. See, that takes time.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
I've heard like so many people that like people who've had books and they read their own audiobooks that it's like the most grueling thing ever.
Yeah. And then like the quality is just got to be, and you have to set it up a certain way. And when you break and when you pause, like there's certain requirements. And if you don't do it,
Got to redo it.
you got to redo it. So I'll eventually get there. That'd be a beast. But for this, I think for the sake, I'm just trying to push the content out to people and get it out there to everyone. That was the purpose of it.
Cool. So you've got your first book out. You're kind of repurposing it and adding more value and putting it out there. And then you're working on a memoir.
Yes. So the memoir's done. We will probably launch in December or January. Right now, it looks like it. Yeah.
Do you have ideas for other books that you plan to write? Are you one of those?
I am one of those.
Yeah.
There's always something like once you write, like something comes to you like, man, that would be good to add value to people. And I have so many in my head where actually the third book will be done soon. And that will probably launch 8 weeks after the memoir. So it'll be both done, but for PR purposes, you have to split them up so it doesn't overlap. So that one will be another real estate book. But I cannot discuss that on the show because you'll know why, and I'll bring you a copy and you'll know why.
Well, that's exciting.
I feel like a book for you though should be like The Power of 3 a.m. or something. Like I don't know, like because you're just getting so much. It's honestly like it's inspiring how much stuff you got done. Even when I was looking at your website, I looked at it before. I was like, wow. Like, and we don't say much. I'll tell you, I don't like most people's websites is complete garbage. And I know that you spend a lot of time. I was like, wow, your website is really detailed. You got a lot of stuff.
I really appreciate that.
You did a great job because I know that's a lot of work.
Thank you.
And I said it to you guys.
I learned so many interesting things about you. That you sang in a gospel choir. You play 3 instruments.
Me and my brothers grew up singing. And
do you still sing?
No, not really. I loved it.
Just to the ladies.
I wish, but I no singing involved.
They're like, no.
I really enjoyed that. I sang in the gospel choir all 4 years in Naval Academy. Grew up in the church like my mom, and me and my brothers could always harmonize. It was weird. That was one thing. We didn't have the whole like telepathic thing or whatever, but we could harmonize. And so Alex did the Glee Club at the Naval Academy, and I did gospel choir, and I freaking loved it.
What instruments do you play?
Everything brass, starter, trombone, baritone, trumpet, tuba.
Wow.
So it was, and my brothers did saxophone, and I loved that part of that chapter of my life at the Naval Academy because there was a lot of outreach to that too. Because we would finish singing at schools or churches, and what do? You're talking to the kids at that point. So it was still cool to do that.
Question for you. Do you, when you write a book, when you're going to do any of the stuff you're doing, do you look out and say, needs to be done by this date and back up, or you just go?
Yes. So it's funny. This was like my marker. was coming here. I'm like, I want to hand Kenny and Krystle a book today. So my marker was getting back to have it done then. And then I did the same thing when I wrote the memoir. I was on deployment when I wrote the memoir. So same thing, you stay up late. I'm like, I got to do 2 hours a day. I'm not, again, Navy taking my time. I'm going to get something back. So when I come back, the first draft's got to be done. And then same thing, you get back, I'm like, all right, now I'm going to set a window for here. I got to get the second draft done. And then the third draft, and then the fourth draft, and you just go from there.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm noticing with people is we were at this event, Neil's. He's like, I just picked a date.
That's when you
And
get it done.
he's like, I picked a date and I didn't even have speakers. And basically he's like, figure it out and put the money down. And he's like, I didn't know if this is going to work out or not, implode. And that's what he did. And I realized with a lot of people, you just got to put a date in there and just be like, okay, we got to figure this shit out.
Yeah. I know people work differently. Some people are very like, they got to plan every single thing. And I think that works great for some people, but I'm going to jump out the plane and build the parachute on the way down.
Yeah.
That is my personality. I just feel like somehow, some way I will figure it out.
Seems like you have so far.
I will hope so. I'm, still trying to get there. You know what I mean?
I think we all are, but I think, we've talked about this so many times before. It's like, what do we have if we don't have another mountain to climb? I just
yeah.
Just,
And that's my fear.
Yeah.
Like I don't really feel the whole gunshot death thing. I mean, you've tasted that to a degree. So my greatest fear is like looking back on my life and feeling that I didn't make the most of my dreams and my talents. Because, when you're lying on your deathbed, like I can't go tap Kenny in for me. And he can't pick up what I didn't do. Mm-hmm. Like at the end of the day, it's just me. And I think I've always been a proponent of like cemeteries and graveyards. I started doing it at the Naval Academy because they bury all the admirals and the presidents that have graduated there. And I would always just kind of like walk around and reflect, make you think about how many of these people in this graveyard are regretting right now. Mm-hmm. And rolling over their grave like, I didn't do this and I didn't do that. And I think that burns me. Like, you ever had that time where you ever reflect and you think back like a childhood memory or just something in life and you like, I can never go back in time and do that. Just like college. You can never go back in time and do that. Certain things you can, but certain things you can't. And it's the things that you can't that eat at me because there's a lot of things in life that you only have one chance to do it. And so you just got to make the most of where you're at. And I don't know why. I just always come out of Chicago. That will always eat at me for some reason. And maybe because of my stepdad. I mean, this is in the memoir, but he was always fearful. He had a lot of stuff that he went through as a kid, and he would project that on us and my mom. And I've watched even to now, today, he regrets a lot of things. And again, you're like, I've always been a reflective person. I'm like, I don't want to be like that. And look how much in pain he is. Mm-hmm. Look how much in pain a lot of my family members are in because of drugs. So I'm just trying to have that balance. I'm just trying to still enjoy my youth and have fun, enjoy the beautiful San Diego, and at the same time still take care of business and help my fam. Like, so that's really what you're just trying to do. And so you die on E. You look back on life and be like, you know what? I feel happy. Like, I feel like I made the most of whatever it was that God and the universe put inside of me.
Yeah, I forget who said, somebody always says, if you're not figuring your shit out, go spend some time in a senior living facility.
Yeah.
And you'll hear a lot of talk about regrets and what I didn't do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what you're saying.
Yeah, it's scary to just think about that.
Yeah. 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 And I think a lot of people too that are unfortunate or older and stuff, it's like they're just so stuck in their ways. It's like, go get the help, just break through. But it's hard, Our generation, I think, because everybody's so much more out there, Instagram, Facebook, it's the podcast, everything. It's like there's kind of no excuse. Like you're seeing it real. Like they can go read your book and your story. It's like, come on. Yeah. So final question we always ask, what's your definition of generational wealth?
Being able to impact my family's life, let's just say whenever I do find that special someone and I have children, for my kid to go out and use their own individual unique strengths and gifts to give back to the world, or not even or, plus in addition to changing some person's life or some kid's life through real estate or financial literacy and having them go touch another. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that.
Haven't heard that one.
I have not heard that yet.
We always, a lot of different answers, have not heard that one.
Oh,
Well, Dre, that was fun.
it was great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Good podcasts all over.
Love it.
Where can people find you?
drmultifamily.com is my website. You'll have all the retailers that can buy the book there as well. The book is, as I mentioned, on multiple retailers as well. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Hudson, which you see, like the Hudson is big in the airports.
Yeah.
At Dr. Multifamily, so that's DR Multifamily on all social media platforms. And then Multifamily by the Slice is the podcast. So the website to the show is multifamilybytheslice.com.
You know, before you came in, I was looking at your stuff. I was like, wow, you have just cool story, a lot of great stuff going on. And I would just say, like, congrats, dude.
Thanks.
Like,
honestly, I just feel your generosity and your
yeah,
passion for
you're
what
real.
you do, and it's just
Thank you.
really inspiring.
like sitting here is probably pretty emotional for the room just because you're real. It comes off. So
I love this.
I
love that
appreciate
you
it.
guys don't do the Zoom thing because
Yeah, it's awesome, huh?
The bread and butter, right?
Yeah.
This is the true connection.
In person.
Yeah.
And I was telling Monty, like, that's what Ike and I are trying to get to, maybe like rent a spot so we can get to this, because I feel like you really get to connect with people.
Yeah, it was a great podcast, great story. Congrats on all your success, and I'm excited to watch you and your journey over the next couple of years. What you're gonna do?
Well, you did what you did in the last 2 years. I can't imagine even what you're gonna do in the next two. So
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.